Greetings and salutations, friends. Today we have some Dawn of War 3 news. The first Eldar gameplay has been revealed. It has been shown off by a Twitch streamer by the name of iNcontroLTV, a former StarCraft 2 pro, apparently. I don't know much about the guy, but professional StarCraft can be quite interesting to watch occasionally, so that's a good thing. All I really know is that he is a remarkably optimistic individual. Let's leave it at that. He was allowed over to Relic HQ, where he recorded some gameplay, also played, of course, the game itself. Now, the stream is not a stream of him playing the game, it is a recording of a game he played at Relic that he is commenting over. The link to the full video will be in the description, obviously, and I will be using a couple of clips from it to demonstrate a couple of the changes. But mostly I'll just be talking a little bit about the new information we have got from the Eldar. So, first up, one of the things I was kind of wondering about with the Eldar was with the complete and utter removal of the cover system, I was wondering how would the relatively fragile Eldar stand up to this new sort of balancing now that there was no longer, well, any cover except for the magical domes of force field energy, which I am still assuming to be relatively rare and map-specific, so that doesn't really sound like something the Eldar could rely on, so to say. Apparently, this has been solved by simply giving all Eldar units a shield. If you watch the footage, you will see that the Eldar have, in essence, two health bars, the first of which is of course the shield, and this has to be fully depleted before the unit begins taking hit point damage and therefore casualties, and the shields do appear to slowly regenerate on map. I gotta admit, I'm not particularly fond of this solution, simply because it essentially means that every single Eldar unit is protected by its own personal void shield, which is a pretty fucking rare technology. But, to be fair, with the complete and utter removal of the cover system, which was in Dawn of War 1, Dawn of War 2, this was probably the only choice. The Eldar need to remain a relatively fragile faction, and as you can see through the various footage if you choose to watch it, they do take quite a lot of hit points damage, so you basically just have to bash your way through their personal void shield generators before you can get to the squishy bits inside. Granted, this is a solution to a problem that didn't have to exist if they simply had a cover system, but that ship would appear to have long since sailed. So, what else is in the video? Well, the Eldar base can move, more or less freely around the battlefield, it would appear. It doesn't look like it needs a webway portal or anything at the destination, but do bear in mind this is of course a single-player mission, so the rules are unclear. Maybe they can move them more or less wherever they want, maybe they have to have a structure in place previously, or maybe they have to have a capture point nearby. I'm hoping there are some relatively severe restrictions on this, because in multiplayer terms, that shit OP-o. I mean, just imagine teleporting your base, your focal point for reinforcement and healing, directly upon a strategic point. That would make said point pretty goddamn safe. Granted, you may potentially be putting your base at risk while doing so, but the payoff! Not to mention, if you could possibly place this relatively close to the enemy's base, ooh, I'd rather not consider the possibility, so we're going to assume that there are going to be some fairly severe limitations on this, and there is also a cooldown timer after you've moved the base, so at the very least you can't simply just pop over there, and then if you're under threat, pop back out again, so that's nice. We also get a closer look at the heroes. The heroes appear to have 2 to 3, possibly more on some heroes' abilities, which appear to be fairly potent on a relatively short 20 to 30 second cooldown. Now, I do like this, since I kind of like micromanaging my troops, so rewarding micromanagement sounds like a good idea. On the other hand, increased micromanagement in combination with larger army sizes seems somewhat contradictory, but it would in the end reward greater micro, so we'll have to wait and see. It's one of those things that is very, very hard to judge without having dozens of hours into the game to, get good at it and see if you can actually handle micromanaging your heroes as well as the army, or if it turns into micromanaging one hero and then just charging the blob towards the enemy. Furthermore, we now know that once you have bought a hero using the elite points, they can be resummoned without the expenditure of further elite points. So, should your hero Banshee fall to enemy fire, she can be resummoned through the expenditure of normal resources, rather than spending further elite points. I'm kinda disappointed by this, honestly. I'd really hoped that you would have to spend more elite points, which are on a timer, simply because it would make the heroes more valuable. You couldn't simply throw them away. One of my favorite units in Company of Heroes 1 is the King Tiger, because it is a fantastically devastating machine, but surprisingly vulnerable, and if you lose that thing, it's gone forever, which really made it feel unique, valuable, and cool, you know. Plus, the feeling of achievement when you killed that motherfucker who had just wasted half of your infantry with its rather magnificent gun. But hey, the heroes do so far appear to be relatively fragile, so perhaps it's all for the best. As a final new little piece of information, we have a new terrain type, which I'll be showing right here. Tall grass that makes units invisible, and yes, I know what you're gonna say. I thought it too, but let's be honest here, it is at the very least an interesting tactical possibility. You can sneak up ranges, and I'm assuming they can fire out of that without being detected. It could potentially give you concealed attack routes to the enemy's position, you know? Let's not judge it purely because it looks, well, like it looks. So, you know, implemented well, I could see this being a pretty cool feature. For example, you have one heavily contested central point with two open access points with with magical shield bubbles, and then you have a couple more exposed but invisible areas of grass where you can move, I'm assuming, fairly large formations. I'm assuming a dreadnought can't be hidden by that because, well, I mean, duh. But still, it could provide you with a bit of a choice between a stealthy approach that might have less defense around it, or a more direct and slightly more grindy approach, you know? Or perhaps even just have it be a hidden path that you could move around the map, potentially hitting enemy strategic points behind their rear lines, but there's some risk to it, you know? It's not a bad idea. In fact, I could see some interesting uses for it, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt for the moment. Furthermore, do not fear, loyal sons of the Emperor. The Eldar are not the only ones that have developed magical space force field bubble technology. The Space Marines have their own variant as well. It is the exact same bubble, except this one is orange. Oh well, at least now I can't bitch about Space Marines operating Eldar technology, so that's something. In addition to all of this, there were several new units revealed. Of course, I won't bother listing them here. You can go watch the video for that, as I strongly suggest you do, since it will show you how the game looks at the moment. And speaking of how it looks and visuals, let's talk a little bit about that, shall we? So let's start out with the visuals, shall we? Now, the snowy map was in part accused of being the reason why the game simply didn't look very 40k, looked too clean and too pristine. And there was certainly some point in that. It was obviously an ice map, therefore, you know, clean. But now we have a very different type of map, so how does it look now? Well, I certainly think that there's a hell of a lot more Warhammer 40k aesthetic on the map. The units... see, I don't really mind the graphical side of it that much. It's a little bit too clean, a little bit too pristine, a little bit of a lack of detail, sure, but at the very least you can see that Space Marines look like Space Marines and the Eldar look like Eldar. So, fine. What really irks me is really the animations, because they are god-awful by Relic standards. I mean, I'm genuinely disappointed by them. The units will just stand there, stock still, firing their weapons with dead eyes, and just... This is the company that gave us Company of Heroes, where units would run around seeking cover, they would be ducking, they would be waving forward their comrades, they'd be putting down suppressing fire. They gave us Dawn of War 2, where units would be gesticulating, firing off into the enemy, punching down, like, they looked like soldiers. Now we're back to having them just look like dead-eyed drones, firing their weapons at each other. Ugh, I really don't like it. The movement animations, the Eldar movement animation, I actually quite like. The Wraith Knight looks bad. It's supposed to move with fluid grace, and yet it stomps around like a giant fucking goblin. I don't like that. The Space Marines are literally fucking bunny jumping. They're doing this weird little leaping thing, which looks really odd. Many of the units seem to be moving a little bit fast. Like the animation is running faster than the unit. It's really disconcerting, but that might simply just be a tweaking issue, so fine. And my personal bugbear are the heavy bolters. They just... God, they look like they're shaking their weapons to, I don't know, shake the bullets out of the barrel or something? I really don't like their animations. They just look so derpy. On the other hand, though, to be somewhat positive, I really do like the animations on the Banshee hero, the way she's leaping all around the place. That's cool, and that's how a Banshee should act. In fact, that is a Phoenix Lord, so she should be pretty fucking acrobatic, so that's cool. I just wish they would cut back on the unists must walk differently to be recognizable bullshit, because it really feels like they immediately ran out of different walks, and then went like, well, now we're gonna have to make this unit walk like a fucking retard. At the end of the video, you will see a librarian. His walk is... I can't even describe it, honestly. I pray to the God Emperor that that is not a finished product. And, I am fully aware of the fact that I am beating a dead horse here, but can I just once again reiterate how fucking retarded the idea is that we are supposed to be telling these units apart based on how they fucking walk? Even in an environment where the screen was perfectly clear, there would be easier ways. But in a game with this much bloom... the idea that you can see anything, much less how a unit fucking walks, is utterly goddamn insane. So let's get to some conclusions. How does this gameplay stack up to what we've seen previously, and what is my opinion about the game that I've seen this? Well, on the bright side, I do kind of like the look of the Eldar. I really hate their static animations, but hey. I do like how the Banshee hero, the Phoenix Lord, is leaping all over the place. I like the heavy use of abilities, and the army sizes do seem to be pretty large, which is also fairly cool. This environment also does look a lot more 40k, which does help the aesthetics a fair bit, but the units still look fairly bland. And the animation quality, well, it's just not up to Relic standards by any stretch of the imagination. It just really is not. And this all leads me to a somewhat unfortunate conclusion. This game does not look like the sequel to Dawn of War 2. It doesn't look like the sequel to Dawn of War 1. To be entirely honest with you, it looks like the prequel to Dawn of War. The graphics are a mild improvement, the animation quality has gotten worse, and the mechanics... Well, let's put it this way. This game does not have a morale system, it does not have a retreat mechanic, it does not have a suppression mechanic, it does not have a cover system beyond the magical force field bubbles, which I refuse to call a cover system, it has no sync kills, it has no unit XP, neither on the heroes nor on the units that we've seen so far. Now do bear in mind this is a single player mission, but it seems strange that not even the basic units would have an XP bar. There does not seem to be an experience system in the game whatsoever, which makes me really sad, because that was another one of those things that I really loved about Relic games. Unit preservation was very important. You were supposed to take care of your units, and in return, they would become stronger and help you be more effective on the battlefield. So to see that go, well, it kinda sucks. It seems like the system almost encourages you to just kind of throw away units now. You'll have larger armies, big old-fashioned blobs just grinding against each other, because, well, there's no point in preserving your units. They aren't going to get any more powerful, and retreating them back to base, well, it's just going to take them out of the blob for an extended period. I really hope I'm wrong on that, because, honestly, this is exactly the kind of thing that just leads to open blob-on-blob warfare, when the player has no incentive to be taking care of his units. And lastly, of course, there is no dynamic squad movement. Your troops will not seek cover, they will not be troops anymore. They will just be dead-faced units that you can throw into the meat grinder. I've kind of made myself depressed now, but as far as I can see, this game appears to be Dawn of War 1, except less of everything. I was one of the people who championed to have more Dawn of War 1 in the next Dawn of War. I didn't imagine that they would go like, oh, they want more Dawn of War 1. Okay, we'll give them Dawn of War 1, but we'll remove most of the features. Just... Hell, I don't know what to say. Really, I don't. Just the fact that we're looking at a game that graphically and animation-wise looked like it could have been made, and indeed a more complex game was made 16 years ago, is just... I don't fucking know. I honestly don't. I pray, I really do, that I am overlooking something fucking vital, and that this game will be more than I currently give it credit for, but I am finding that harder and harder to believe. But hey, on the plus side, we now have tall grass, so that's a thing. Yeah. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. You have a good day.